Shalom, shalom. All right, let's get ready to rock and roll. Okay, listen, before you can build what lasts, you must understand how God built you. This is where we left off last time. And in tonight's episode, we're going to discover the blueprint of your identity and how your divine design reveals your kingdom assignment. So I hope you're excited about what we're going to be doing this evening and you've been doing your homework over the past couple of days because it's time, and it's past time really, for believers to uncover their identity to the blueprint that God has gave so that what they're called to build, they can begin building it. Because until you know who you are, you can't steward what you've been assigned to build. And until you become clear on who you are, you can't build what you've been designed to build. You can't steward it well. You can't manage it well. You don't even know what it is. So we've got to deal with that. And we've got to deal with the identity. And we're going to talk about that this evening. And beginning with breaking another false belief that you've been taught to believe, and that is that your role is just to help others build and not to build your own life. We've been taught in Christendom and denomination to spend all this time in church and in ministry and helping them build and all of that kind of stuff. And that's well and all good. But if you're doing that and you're not building your own life, you're doing that, you're not building what God has sent you here to build and here to do, then that becomes misplaced. And that's why a lot of people are turned off from church and religion today and denomination today, because me included, back in the day, we consumed ourselves in the work of the ministry and we wasn't letting the ministry work in and through us. The truth is that you were designed by God to architect solutions. You were created to solve specific problems. That is the reason why you're here. And your identity is not accidental. It's very intentional, and it always points you toward your divine assignment. Once you know who you are, you can then clearly begin defining and understanding what you're here to do and who you're here to do it for. And we're going into tonight's lesson, hopefully, with an understanding of what we've accomplished the last episode and then the opening. And I want to welcome you back again. And if everything that you've tried to fix over the past weeks or months or weeks or years suddenly started revealing to you the process or revealing you in the process, because if you've been working your way through the blueprint that I gave you and share with you, it should be helping you reveal you. And last week we suddenly started a process, and hopefully you've done that, and that process should be revealing more about you and not just picking up on your failures or your downfalls or your mistakes, but it should help you start helping you understand your divine design. Good evening, daughter. Good to see you. God is showing you and me something deeper. And if we spend the time to really understand who He's created us to be, we'll begin to understand that deeper meaning. Because before you can build what lasts, you have to understand how you have been built. You have to understand what He's placed in you. You have to understand the gift, talents, and abilities He's assigned you and He's put in you. So I want to welcome you back to this episode here this evening, family, to Kingdom Architects. We are in lesson number 3, or week number 3. I should say lesson number 2. One was just the overview. And we're talking about building what outlasts you. And last week, we discovered that repair is not equal to reform, that God's goal isn't to just have us patch old systems, but to architect new ones according to His divine pattern. And many of you took that declaration to heart, which I appreciate. And you said that I'm not fixing anymore. I'm building what endures. So thank you for commenting. Thank you for emailing me, texting me, letting me know that you were working on those assignments. I appreciate it. And you began designing your blueprint. Hopefully, you spent this past week. I sent out a couple of reminders to you to let you know to work on those assignments and homework. Hopefully, you began designing that blueprint while figuring out what's broken, understanding what's broken, so that we can take off from there. And so that's exactly where we're going to pick up today. Because what you build next and what you do next will always flow out of who you believe you are. We're going to spend a lot of time this evening on identity because who you believe you are will determine what you do, how you do it, or if you do it, and who you do it for. And the reason some blueprints don't work for people and they never manifest isn't because the vision was wrong. It's because the builder, you, the builder, your identity wasn't settled. I want you to let that sink in. Your identity isn't settled. And this is why many things that you attempt to do, try to do, don't last. Don't even get off the ground because you're still wrestling with your identity. So before we talk about tools and teams and systems and plans and blueprints and all of that, God wants to lay your foundation of identity. And if I can't say anything else tonight, I want you to be clear about what I'm saying because too many believers just don't know who they are. And in today's message, I want to talk about you've been built to build. And it's about discovering the original design that heaven wrote into your DNA. God already imprinted upon you and upon your soul who he has destined you to be. And by the end of this lesson, you're going to see that your wiring, your makeup, your composition isn't random. It's listen, it is too, I should say, specific in order to be random. Just the and you've heard me talk about this biological analogy in time of fact. Just the fact that you made it here compared to, let's just say, 100 million or even a billion other chromosomes. You made it here out of that one seed to be here. So you're not an accident. You fought your way into becoming and into being, and therefore you can fight your way into existing and living and thriving. And that's a revelation that you all have to get. And when you finally understand your design, you'll stop limiting yourself, you'll stop imitating others. Listen, you'll stop just going along to just get along, and you will start architecting, you will start designing, you will start creating, you will start building, you will start engineering, you will start doing the things you have been impregnated by God to do. And last week we discovered that repair, as I said, is not equal to reform, and that God is calling us to stop patching broken things and start building what will endure. And that begins with us. We have to begin building it in us. You declared that you weren't fixing anymore, that you were ready to start building. And I hope that that's correct because this week we're going to take a deeper walk into the journey. And I'm going to assign you more to do because before you can design what will last, before you can design what will be sustained, you must first understand the design of you. You must first understand how God has designed you because every lasting structure begins with a strong foundation. And your foundation begins with understanding who you are. And the first foundation that you will ever build on isn't a plan. Many people spend a whole lot of time planning, but if you don't know what you're planning and why you're planning it, it won't last. It doesn't begin with the plan, it begins with your identity. It's identity that begins. And the more specific and the more specified you become with understanding your identity, the clearer you become on whatever plans or creations that you have been designed to build. So before we get too deep into it, let's pray. We're going to get started. Get your pencils, your pads, your notepads, your phones, whatever, your recording devices, and let's get ready to rock and roll. So Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be gathered here this evening with your people. I pray that you would give us wisdom, insight, revelation, and understanding. I pray that you would open up our minds to be clear about what it is and who it is you have created us to be so that we can begin being that and doing that and then manifesting that in and through the earth in these final hours that we have. We give you thanks and praise tonight that we have ears to hear what the Spirit is saying. Be glorified and magnified in all that you say and all that you do. This we pray in Yeshua's name. Amen and amen. So let's go ahead and let's get into it. If you're hearing me good, I'm coming across nice and loud and clear. Just give me a thumbs up. Let me know I am. If I need to bump it up a little bit, the volume wise, I will. Just let me know that I'm coming through nice and clear. Take a little sip while you let me know how things are sounding out there. All right. Cool. Talk to me this evening because I'm going to be having some Q&A here toward the end. So need your feedback. All right. So if you were ready and we're sounding good, I didn't see any thumbs up, so I'm not sure. We sounding good? All right. Thanks, honey. She gave me a thumbs up. So good. So the very first thing that I want you to solidify in your thinking is this, because we gotta get this. If we can't get this and you can't get this, I'm sorry, your life is going to continue to be what it is. Point blank. You got to get this. And reason I'm stressing this is because my wife and we talk to so many people. We hear from so many people who are still struggling with who they are. This is why they're often into so many things, doing so many things, just confused about so many things because they don't understand who they are. And I'm not just talking about being a Christian, I'm talking about your innate DNA of your existence, not just being a black person, not just being from this place or that place or part of this tribe or that tribe or the next thing, but who you are within the context of what God has created you to be and to do. We got to solidify this point because if you don't solidify this in your thinking, then everything in life and everything that you go through has a tendency to put upon you that it's just random starts and random things happening to you and you can't do anything about it. First thing I got to solidify in you, point number one, is that you are not random. You are intentional. I don't care if it did happen in the back seat of a Chevy. Man, I was conceived in the back seat of a Cadillac. I don't care if mom and daddy was out there slipping and dipping and tripping. God had a destined plan for me to be here. I wasn't here by accident because, like I said, I could have been lost in the womb. I could have been aborted. Listen, I could have been one of the other 100 million or 999,999 brothers and sisters that didn't make it down the stream. I could have been one of them, but I made it, fought my way through, fought my way down the canal, fought my way down the channel, fought my way busting into the egg, fought my way into spermalizing it. Listen, you are not an accident. It doesn't matter if you think you ain't supposed to be here. It doesn't matter if you think you out of place, you out of time. You are here. God felt fit for you to be here. You got to be cool with that. You got to be content with that. You got to be okay with that. You got to stop regretting, your existence and I shouldn't be here and I wish I was dead and I'm ready to get up. You got to stop all that. You can't do nothing, nor are you going to be anything, nor are you going to accomplish anything if that is your mindset. Are you hit me? I gotta listen. I gotta hit you hard and heavy. I apologize, but I don't, because you gotta get this. Because if you're still dealing and wrestling with the fact that your existence here doesn't matter, then you have already signed the death certificate and warrant that it just doesn't matter to me. Whatever it is, que sera, sera. Whatever it is will be, will be. I don't care about nothing. Nothing I can do about it. Nothing I can fix it about it. Nothing I can repair about it. Listen, Ephesians 2:10 calls us God's workmanship, his product, which means he spent time making and shaping. The Greek word here is poema. Poema means his poem, his masterpiece. I mean, he took thought and consideration in creating you and me. I was having this conversation with a brother the other day, a couple days ago. We were talking about this. It's like, you know what? We don't understand when God said that he has to put us back on the potter's wheel to make us again because we become marred. So many things in this life and in this world and this existence has marred our identity to where people no longer can recognize the workmanship God has already put in us, can no longer recognize the beauty that has gone into creating us. The Bible said that we are wonderfully and beautifully and creatively made. We are a wonder, and therefore the angels even look into the matter to say, man, who is man, God, that you are mindful of them? Why did you pay so much attention? And why are they so special to you? Why did you take so much time? And they said they seek into the matter. And I want to go a little deeper in Ephesians 10 to 10 because it says that we are God's making. And being God's making, created in union with the Messiah Yeshua for a life of good actions, already prepared by God for us to do. So if God has already given us a life full of good actions, already prepared for us to do, how can we say we're an accident? How can we say we're a mistake? How can we say we don't belong? How can we say we have no purpose here? How can we say we have no meaning here? We have no existence. How can we walk around with our head down thinking that we're of no use and no value? God doesn't do a thing and then go back and figure out how he's going to work it out. He's already completed the end from the beginning, scripture says. He's already concluded all the matter. He goes back and now let us walk through the process. That means what it says there in Ephesians, it means that you are not a copy. You're not a copy. You're not an imitation. You are an original. You're not a copy of someone else's calling, a copy of someone else's design, a copy of someone else's makeup. So you can't live like it. You must live your life as an original. You are an original design, an original blueprint written by the great architect of all eternity. God couldn't do it any better than he did you. Are you with me? I know some people say, well, you shouldn't, and the scripture say, well, you shouldn't think more highly of yourself. And I'm going to talk about that here this evening. I'm not talking about having a low estimation of yourself and having low esteem. And then I'm not talking about also being so high minded that you're no earthly good. But I'm saying you have to place value on you, whether anybody else does or not. It doesn't matter if the job and the boss man, the company you say isn't recognizing your worth. You got to know that you're worth it, because it's not tied to how much you make. It's not tied to how much you have. It's not tied to what things come into your life. If you're still measuring your value by that and your worth and your existence by that, you miss the whole product. You miss the whole thing. Man will never acknowledge or recognize you as highly as God has. This is why you got to think like he thinks about you. You are an original. When God formed you, when he formed me, he hid the design codes in our personality, in our passion, in our pain, even in our processes, even in the things that we're walking out. God, he hid those codes in there, and that we would take the time to spend with him to tap into those, those existences, to tap into those those characteristics that he's made us, to tap into those talents, those abilities, those gifts, those skills. And we would tap into those things, we will see the grand design of things. We will see something far greater than we see now. When God formed you, when he formed me, the hidden things that exist in us, our passions that reveal the burdens that we have, the gifts that he's given us reveals the tools that he's put at our disposal to be able to use. The struggles that we even go through in life, they reveal the training ground that help us develop into what it is God has already said that we are. You were built to build, and nothing about you is accidental. Nothing about you is happenstance. Nothing about you is que sera, so why, whatever will be. No, it's what God said will be. And we got to believe what he says. We got to do what he says. We got to walk the way he says. Because if we don't, there's a whole lot of other things out there that's ready to lead us down these paths of this, that, and the next thing. Lead us into this and doing that and doing the next thing, believing this, believing that, believing the next thing. Are you with me? Did you get anything out of point number one? I mean, I could stay there all night because this has been an area of my life for many years prior to now that I spent years trying to understand and wrap my mind around. Just understanding, God, if you put so much greatness in me, then why do I still struggle with certain things? Why do I still wrestle with certain things? Why am I challenged and accomplishing certain things? And he kept dealing with my mindset. He says, you believe in what everybody else is saying and what everything else is going on and what everybody else is doing. Focus on you and what I've created you to do and what I put in you and start maximizing that. And when I start focusing on me, people call me selfish, said, yeah, I didn't have a right to spend time working on me and dealing with, but I was losing my mind trying to help everybody else. I was, listen, a mess, but trying to deal with everybody else's issues, challenging problems, and wasn't building my own life well, wasn't structuring my own life well. Because the next thing I need you to know that this world, the chaos that it is in and the chaos that it will continue to generate and create, and people are in the process of renaming and delabeling so many things, including themselves. But if we say we believe God, we say we live as God's people, we say we're His, then we got to clear up the identity confusion. Because as a believer, you have no right, nor are you meant to dibble and dabble into relabeling and re identifying who you are. God has created you after his own likeness and similitude, and he didn't make no mistakes. I know that's popular. The world, oh, well, there was a mistake written when God did me. I feel like this and I feel like that. I don't care what you feel like. See, this is why we got to deal with the identity confusion. Because too many people operating on feelings and not facts, not evidence. Because you can't change the evidence. Your feelings can change like the weather. Hot one minute, cold the next. Wind blowing, calm the next. Sea is raging, peaceful the next. Snowing, blizzarding, sunshine, and then your feelings can be just like that. It ain't about your feelings. It ain't about how you get up every morning and you feel feminine and you're a man. Or you get up every morning and you're a female and you feel a little masculine energy. It ain't about your feelings. The identity confusion has filtered its way into the lives of many believers, and therefore it is creating architectural delay. Identity confusion equals architectural delay. You can't build, you can't become, you can't do what and who you've been created to build and do if you're struggling with who you are. If you're a man and you're struggling with your manhood, you can't do anything in that arena. You're a woman, you struggling with your womanhood, you ain't gonna do anything well in that. This is why women don't want to be wives and housewives. And listen, I'm not trying to say you domesticated, tied to the oven, tied to the stove, all that kind of stuff, because gender roles is not what I'm talking about. Everybody has got to do what works for them and their family. I don't mind putting on the smock and cooking for my wife. I don't mind getting the dust mop out and cleaning. So it ain't about gender roles. It is about what you can do well in the family. You do that. Let the other members of the family do what they do. But if you suffer from identity, you just don't know you a man and you're a man, or you're a woman, you're a woman. You're here to do this specific task. You're here to create this specific thing. You got a problem. You're going to create architectural delays throughout life. Jeremiah 1:5 can't be any clearer. Before I formed you, I knew you. We either believe that or we don't. We either believe that or we don't. And I want to talk about it because he tells a prophet here. He says, Jeremiah 1:5, he says, before I formed you in the womb, which means you were with God before you ever manifested in the earth. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I separated you to myself. That's the key. We've been separated to God for him. So he's created us for him. So if he's created us for him, he know what and how he's created us to be for him. He said, I've appointed you in this particular case. He tells the prophet, I have appointed you to be a prophet to the nations. Now, I know people say, well, that only applied to him. Listen, the Bible said all scripture is profitable teaching, for instruction in righteousness, for reproof, for correction, so that we can be built up in God, thoroughly furnished, not lacking anything. So we can use all scripture as an example. So look at the first part. If we've been separated and created by God, by Him, for Him, it means that He had an intention in mind. It means that He had a purpose in mind. It means that He had a call in mind to pull us to Himself, for Himself, to be used by Him for something. And in Jeremiah's case, that was for him to be a prophet, to go to the nations, to help them to get back on track with God. So, what has He created you to do and to be? What has He separated you unto Himself to be? And that isn't to be confused about who you are. That isn't to wonder and question whether your masculinity or your femininity has to be redefined or redefined or relabeled because God made some mistake in the wiring process. No, we've all been born and shaping an iniquity in sin. And it's the sin nature that corrupts our soul into believing and thinking something contrary to what God has said. That was the first sin of the fallen one, to twist the words of what the Most High said, so that the people who had heard the word can now question the word, doubt the word, and do something contrary to the word. Are you with me? Because when we listen to the alternate voices, the other voice that tells us, no, 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 that's not what it's supposed to be. No, 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 that's not what He said. No, 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 that's not what it is. Well, wait a minute. You don't have the right, nor have you been given the permission to redefine what the original, what the author has said. See, if we, let me give you a simple analogy. You got a book, okay? I don't have one here right now. Just rearranged my desk so stuff is not in place close. But next time I'll show you. But if you got a book, let's just say you got a book, and that book has been written by a particular author with particular stuff in it, and therefore, you can take that book, take it verbatim, or you can change it. Now, if you change it, they call that plagiarism, and it's illegal, which means you taking the author's words and you turn them into something else, or you've rewritten them yourself, or you modify them in some way, but yet you're still trying to contribute it to the author. That's called plagiarism. And as one that spent many years in college and had many papers questioned with little red notes saying, well, this has been plagiarized. You need to restate this in your own words if it's going to be your words. But if it's going to be the original writer's words, then you must cite the source by which you got it. And if you don't properly cite the source, then you are cited in violation of violating the words of the author. And what people have done is they have plagiarized the word of God to mean something that it doesn't mean, to say something that it doesn't say, to inference something that it doesn't infer. And therefore, they have plagiarized, which means they're no longer speaking the author's words, they're speaking their own words. And if you don't believe what God has said about you and you believe somebody else's words about you, then you are walking in the lies of that plagiarism. You are walking in the lies of those people. Same thing the original son and daughter did. They walked in the lie of the enemy because he said that's not what God said. This is what He actually meant when He said what He said. This is what He actually said. This is what He wanted you to get from that. Notice when God spoke to Jeremiah, He didn't start with Jeremiah's task. He didn't start with what He called him to do. He dealt first with his identity, who you are. Listen, know this, boy. When I formed you, I knew you before you came into being, before you was a seed. Listen, swimming down the canal, stroking for your life, fighting for your life. Before that even happened, you was with me in a place with you. Here's why Yeshua could say, Father, I was with you from the beginning. I have always been with you. There's never been a time that I wasn't with you. He wasn't just talking about the time that He came to earth. He just spending time with His Father. He said, I had always been with you because I was in you and you was in me. And we have always been with God because He was in us and we were in Him ever before our parents got together. So God didn't just start with what he gave you to do. He started with your identity. We go back to the garden, talking about the first son and daughter. God dealt with his identity before he dealt with his task. And it wasn't until he began to mess around with his identity and his purpose that God began to, listen, chastise him through his work. He started with his identity. He starts with me and you and identity. And if you're confused about then you will surely be confused about what you are here to do. You'll be confused about the purpose that you've been created. You'll be confused about what you should be setting your hands to. You should be confused about, who you're supposed to be working with and flowing with because you don't know who you are. And so it begins with your identity. And this is why we have to get rid of that confusion. We got to get rid of that confusion because if we get rid of that confusion, then we could go on to fulfilling our assignments. We could go on to doing what it is we've been created to do. Because when you don't know who you are, you will build what others expect instead of what heaven has ordained. See, Adam and Eve began building what the enemy expected them to do, walking in the transgression of that thing instead of staying grounded in what heaven ordained them to do, because God had already given them the work. He had already given them the specifics. He had already given them the assignment. He had already given them the task. They just had to stay true to it. And when you don't know who you are, you'll build what others expect you to do. You'll do what others expect you to do. When you don't know who you are, you will volunteer in someone else's vision while ignoring your own. You will spend time doing great things for everybody else, but your life can still be in shambles. Your life can still be in shipwreck. Your life can still be in chaos. And this is why we had so many people working in the church, being around the church, who looked like, long as they was in church, around church, everything was wonderful. But when they went home, it was another story because they wasn't building right. They wasn't building that home, wasn't building family, wasn't building personal life, wasn't building that area. But they was busy down at the church house 7 days a week. And when you don't know your identity, you will confuse busyness for building. A lot of folks is busy. A lot of folks just doing a lot of stuff. But is it doing what God would have you to do? Is it doing the work of the kingdom? See, busyness doesn't equate to effectiveness. Because you're busy don't mean you're accomplishing and you're achieving. You could just spend the whole day doing a whole bunch of stuff. But did you accomplish? See, identity confusion delays architecture because God won't let you pour something solid on borrowed ground. You can't build something solid on a borrowed blueprint. We talked about this in our last lesson. Paul said that be careful how we build because the foundation has been laid that nobody else can lay. And we got to be careful how we build upon that because if we build the wrong things upon that, then those things will be burned up and destroyed. And what we have today is we have a lot that's going to be burned up and destroyed because so much has been built improperly, erroneously, and incorrectly. And we are wondering why we're not seeing heaven's results in earth because we haven't built it according to heaven's pattern. We did it according to earthly patterns. We did it according to man's patterns. We did it according to popular patterns. We did it according to societal patterns, but we haven't done it according to God's patterns. So it hasn't rendered God's effects in the earth. How can we say that he's the same God of yesterday, today, and forever, and yet we don't see him doing the same things he did then, now, or in the future? And many people question and wonder why that is. I've always said, and I continue to say, is because we're not doing it God's way. If we do it God's way, we will have God's results. We will see the same things God said we would see. I remember when I was doing a whole lot of traveling and ministering and going around the country and the world and doing different things, and people were struggling with healing, listen, I had no problem in the mission field with healings, deliverance, signs, wonders, and miracles. I saw all the same things they did in the Bible. God was so gracious to use me to do. Listen, I've had people get out of wheelchairs, off crutches, walk, people deaf, hear, people who were supposed to die didn't. All of those things occurred. just the way the Bible said, but I had to do it the Bible pattern. Couldn't do it my way. Couldn't do it the way church was trying to do it. Couldn't do it the way Christianity was trying to do it. Couldn't do it the way the popular things were trying to do it. I had to do it the way God said it was supposed to be done. And all sometimes that was very different than what they said it should be done and how it should be done. But see, I struggled here and now with identity confusion. But when I finally got the identity right, I had no more confusion in my life because though that confusion delayed the promises of God happening and taking effect, and it will do for you. Some of you are waiting on the move of God, and have been for some time. But God has been waiting on a move of clarity from you. He's waiting for you to get clear that you know who you are. You start living that. You start walking that. You start being that. You stop questioning that. You stop doubting that. You start asking everybody else, well, who am I? And what am I supposed to be doing? And I don't know. And one day you in and the next day you out. One day you up and the next day you down. One day you on fire, the next day you cold. So when you know who you are, purpose stops being trial and error and it starts being intentional construction. You start getting up every day with an intent as to what I'm building today, what I'm doing today, what I'm accomplishing today, what is coming to pass today. See, when you start really understanding who you are, listen, then every day has a meaning. Every day has an outcome. Every day has an assignment. Every day is designed to produce something for you. Every day is designed to demonstrate something through you. And then you go to bed, you're like, man, I accomplished it today. I got it done today. I feel good. Praise God. Accomplished that thing, did that thing. Why? Because you're clear. You're clear on who you are. You ain't struggling with that every day. You ain't struggling when you get up in the morning with doubts and fears and uncertainties as to, how it's going to happen today and what's going to take place today and this, that, and the next thing. You listen. God worries about the how. Our job is to do the what and get it done when. And if we will focus on that, the how will take care of itself. Are you getting anything? If you're getting something, let me know in the comments that you're getting something. Let me know this is helping you. Take a quick water break. Listen, and my final point this evening that I want to point out to you and that I want you to understand today is this. And this is extremely important. It's extremely important, for you to grasp this before moving on. And, moving on in your assignments, this is going to be extremely important that you grasp this and that you get this, that you lock this in, okay? And that is this. Purpose flows from design, not default. And what I mean by that is that purpose flows from the design within. It's not defaulted from without. Many people are trying to understand purpose from the outside in. Because if I'm not doing this, then I may not be in purpose. If I'm not seeing this, then it may not be my purpose. If I'm not accomplishing this, that's all external. Purpose begins on the inside and manifests outside because you tapped into your strengths, your talents, your abilities, your gifts, your skill, your functioning, your operation, your administration. The list can go on, and we're going to break this down in the next weeks in the archetype when we start talking about it. But all of that, even if we just take one of those plethora of lists of things, we just take, for example, let's just take talents as you know, an example. If you just focused on talents, what you're good at, what you ain't went to school for, you didn't have training for, you came out the womb almost pretty much being able to do it. It's so amazing to me when I see little children who just pick up an instrument and automatically just start playing it, for example. Pick up a sports thing, football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is, and just can automatically start doing it. Can hit the field and just run, 30, 40 miles an hour. Just, that's a natural ability. It's in you. If you just focus on that and how well you did that, that'll be enough to keep you busy for a good little minute and help you understand that's working its way out of you into whatever assignments or whatever things you find yourself putting your hands to do. In Romans chapter 12, reminds us that we all have different functions, we all have different graces, we all have different abilities, we all have different means and methods of operations. And I want you to read the entire 12th chapter of Romans on your own time. Complete it, read it, because it's going to be a part of your assignment. But for now, I want to highlight a certain part of that beginning at verse 3 of Romans 12. And Romans 12:3 says this. It says, "For I am telling every single one of you, through the grace that has been given to me, not to have exaggerated ideas about your own importance." As I said before, it's nothing wrong with thinking highly of yourself. You just don't have to think more highly, but it's not wrong to think highly. The Bible doesn't say you don't think highly. It just said don't have an over exaggerated opinion about yourself. But it didn't just say have a high opinion of yourself. You can have a high opinion, and you should have a high opinion of yourself. I was telling a brother the other day that I was having a conversation with. I do what I do very well, and I'm very confident in that. And I don't think anybody does it better than me. They may do it better than me, but in my mind, in my estimation, I do it well. And I do it very well, and I keep doing it well. And what I do well, I do well. And I believe I'm the best at it. Not to not taking away from what anybody else does, but I'm not going to think I'm less than because somebody else may do it better than me in their estimation, or somebody else thinks they done it better than me. I'm not going to start thinking low of me just because that's the case. I'm going to still think high of me. And that's what the scripture's saying. He said, instead, develop a sober estimation. And that's having a sober estimation of yourself based on, here's what it's based on the standard which God has given to each of you, namely trust. So we trust God. He's given me a standard for me to meet. Not me to meet somebody else's standard, not me to measure up to the standard somebody else's, but the standard he's given me. Am I, in my estimation, meeting up to the highest level of that standard? That's why First Corinthians tell us don't compare ourselves with other people. Our comparison should be amongst ourselves with what God has given us to do. And we compare that against who we've been created to be and the assignment that He's given us. And that's the only estimation that matters. It doesn't matter what somebody else thinks about you. It doesn't matter what somebody else says about you. How are you measuring up according to the standard that God has given you? For just as there are many parts that compose one body, but the parts don't all have the same function, so there are many of us, and in union with the side, we comprise one body, with each of us belonging to the other one. But we all have gifts that differ and which are meant to be used according to the grace that has been given to us. If your gift is prophecy, use it to the extent of your trust. If it is serving, use it to serve. If it's in teaching, use it to teach. If you are a counselor, use it to give gifts of exhortation and comfort. If you're someone who gives, do it with simplicity and generosity. If you are in a position of leadership, lead with diligence and zeal. If you are one who does acts of mercy, do it cheerfully. So whatever it is that God has put in you, you do that well, and you do that to the best of your ability and the best of the estimation is giving you, not in comparison to someone else and how someone else is doing it, but in how He's given you to do it. And if you've done that, then you are pleasing God. And many people miss this. They miss this because they're busy trying to compare themselves with other people. They're busy trying to compare themselves to what everybody else said it's supposed to be doing. Think of it like this. Think of a construction site. The plumber doesn't go on around arguing and bragging to the electrician how good his plumbing is. He gets his plumbing work done and he gets out of the way so the electrician can come in and do his job. The plumber ain't trying to be the electrician because if he mix water with electricity, he gonna electrocute himself. The electrician ain't trying to go fix the toilet and fix the sink because if he mix water with what he's doing, he gonna kill himself. See, the foundation crew doesn't go around envying the roofer. They realize I need the roofer to do his job so that it doesn't rain down on my foundation and ruin my foundation. Each one of us has to know. Each one of us has to know what we're here for, what we're here to do. Each one of us, when we know our assignments, we understand our assignments, then we can understand our design. Then we could accomplish our design. Then we could fulfill the mission and mandate. That's how kingdom works. That's how the building process works. Your gifting, your personality, your rhythm, how you do it, all of that is already put on the inside of you. And it's heaven has engineered that in you, and you're called to build according to that pattern. Yeah, it took me a while as a leader to learn this because I had to realize and understand that people worked at different paces, people worked different ways, and I couldn't always put somebody like me who was always fast with somebody who was always slow because it created frustration. I had to have a mixed balance of that, and that's not always a bad thing because sometimes the people who move a little slow needs a little extra motivation, but it's got to be the right motivation in order not to demotivate. So it takes time to understand how all the gifts come together and how to work them together and do that. And and in so doing, we as the people of God have to understand that we all been created uniquely. We all been created differently, and we all have different functions and roles and assignments, and it's okay. We're not all called to be the same or do it the same and act the same. And many of us who consider ourselves to be type A personalities, we don't all operate, act the same. I know many type A's, and we're different. We 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 flow well together, but we're different. It's so funny because my wife and another couple that we go out with quite often with, we're like two peas, four peas in a pie because the husband of my friend is more like my wife, and I'm more like the spouse of my friend. And when we get together, you see us kind of separate because when debates are happening or conversations are happening about doing certain things, the two type A's, we get together. We got to have a huddle. We creating a plan. We laying out work, and the two type C's, they just going along. They ready to just get it done. They just ready to accomplish it. They just ready to have fun. And we already over here planning and figuring it out and everything like that. But it's interesting to just watch the dynamics of all of that happening. But if you don't know who you are and you're not comfortable being that, then you can't flow in those arenas and environment. You're intimidated by people who are around you. You're comparing yourself to other people with you. You're trying to be like this person that's with you. And none of that is being the design that God has created you to be. See, when you ignore your design, when you ignore your presence, you default into frustration. You default into being something else. You default into just going along with what everybody else has got going along because you're still confused. When you embrace your design, you can flow in purpose. You can flow in sync. You can flow with people. You can flow with people who don't really even mix with you, who ain't, you know what I'm saying, who don't really even vibe with you. That's the word today, vibe, right? My wife said, yeah, it's so funny. She know it's true because it's so funny. Because we had the conversation the other day, and they were just teasing us because type A's, we were going at it. And we were doing it, and they were just chill. They were just ready to get their meal and get their dessert and just enjoy it. And we done worked out this plan. We're just doing what we do. But we're around people that allow us to be who we are, and we don't have to change to be around them. And this is what I'm learning in this stage of my life, in this age of my life, to be around people that allow me to be who I am because I allow them to be who they are. I allow them to fully be who they are. I don't always like it. I don't always get along. I don't always agree with it, but I allow them to be who they are and do what they do. So the question isn't, what am I supposed to do? The question should be, what was I designed to become? Because we should all be seeking to become not the best version of ourselves necessarily, but the best version of what God has created ourselves to be. Because, see, if we don't tie it back to God, then we will try to create ourselves to be the best version of what we think it should be. And that's what many people get it wrong. Because if you wake up one morning thinking that the version of yourself today is female and you male, then you're not doing it the way God said you ought to be. So you can't just create the design from your own thinking and being and doing if it's not aligned to the original purpose and design and intent of a thing. Because one thing none of us can change, no matter how we relabel it, reclassify it, redefine it, you cannot change your DNA. I know they're trying. I know medically they're manipulating. I know genetically they're splicing. I know they're engineering things to put in us to create changes and differences. But again, that goes back to what I said earlier. That's the lie. That's the plagiarism. That's not the original design. So if it's been altered, if it's been changed, if it's been modified, come on. If it's been genome touched, then it's not the original, and we can't ascribe it to the original. So the question should be, what was I designed to become? And here's what I want you to take away from the lesson this week and add to your architectural blueprint design through your homework this week. I want you to just take a quick trip with me, real quick. Close your eyes for a minute, and I want you to just listen to something. I'm not trying to work some voodoo magic on you or nothing like that, okay? Just want you to close your eyes for a minute because I want you to get an image, and I want you to hear this. As you close your eyes, I want you to just listen to what I'm about to say next, okay? And that is, you are not an extra in someone else's story. You are a builder in God's plan and blueprint. Think on that. Keep your eyes closed for a minute. Think on that. Let that resonate within you for a moment. Say to yourself, I'm not an extra in somebody else's story. I'm an original in God's plan. And in God's plan and blueprint, I'm not an accident. I'm here on purpose, which means I have a purpose and I'm destined to fulfill purpose. Say this with me. I am God's workmanship. I am designed on purpose for purpose. My identity reveals my assignment. I was built to build. Open your eyes. If that resonated with you, and I'll have bookmarks in the lesson a little later where you can go back to this point of the recording and do that mental exercise again, because I believe many people need to do that mental exercise because, as I said, the identity crisis is real and people are very confused as to who they are today. Many people just think I'm just a black person or a white person. You're more than that. The pigmentation of your skin shouldn't define the nature of your character, shouldn't define what you do or don't do. I know it does for many people because their identity is found in their colorism. Their identity is found in their tribalism. Their identity is found in their nationalism. Their identity is found in their politics. Their identity is found in their religion or denomination. Well, identity should be found in God. And if we keep it there and we operate from that perspective, the world that we know as we know it would drastically change. If we can get people to operate under that premise, take your colorism out, take your politics out, take your nationalism out, take all of that out and just let God be the foundation of it all. Now, I know that brings into question, well, what God are you talking about? And I'm not getting into that tonight because that's a whole nother issue. But I am talking about the one eternal God. And again, people say, well, I believe him to be this, and I believe him to be that. I believe him to be the next thing. Okay. Even with that, let's just let me play advocate here just for a moment. Not devil. I'm never going to be the devil's advocate, but let me just play advocate. Bear with me because this isn't in my notes. I'm just getting this. But if, let's just say, you got a God by a different name, okay? Take out everything but him and go to the initial premise of what he said, how we're to, because all gods have this basic philosophy, how we are to honor him above everyone else, and how we have to treat each other as we would ourselves. If we just operate from that premise, because that's just not a Christian philosophy. That's a universal doctrine. That's a universal philosophy. Every religion around the world believes in those two tenets at a minimum, that we should honor God always, put him first, and that we should treat one another as we would desire to be treated. That's found in every faith, denomination, creed, doctrine around the world. So if we just operated from that perspective alone, the world would be a better place. If I believe I shouldn't hurt and kill you because I don't want to be hurt and killed, the world would be a better place. If I believe I shouldn't rob and steal from you because I don't want to be robbed and stolen from, the world would be a better place. If I had extra bread and you were in need of some bread and I shared it with you, the world would be a better place. If I had an extra cot, the place to sleep in, and you didn't have a place, and I invited you in to stay, the world would be a better place. So if we just operated on that tenet alone, see, this is why I said it's very simple to become a unified world if we would just do it God's way. Uh, Let me get on down the road because I could just be there for a minute and camp out, but I got more that I need you to be getting, and I don't want to give you too much every week. But listen, next week we're going to start identifying the six builder archetypes. And we're going to look at the spiritual patterns that show you how you were wired to build. Start breaking this down in such a way where you can. And if you haven't, then I need you to tap on into this. But today we're going to start with this question. This is the question of the day, and I'll have it posted in the comments. What keeps trying to rise in you that you keep pushing down? Because there's something that rises up in each and every one of us that we keep pushing down that we just don't want to do. And we know it comes up because it's something that we should be doing, but we don't want to do it. And it may be a pride thing, it may not be a pride thing. But I believe it's purpose trying to find structure in you. If there's something in you that's constantly coming up and out of you and you keep pushing it down and suppressing it, that's purpose trying to come up and out of you because it's trying to get you to restructure some things, trying to get you to re identify some things and move away from some things and into some things. And what happens oftentimes is that we suppress the thing for so often and for so long that as it begins to speak and resurface, we just quiet it and we just go along. We pay it no attention. But here's what I want you to do as you have been doing throughout this, because if you've been working your way through the blueprint as it's designed to help you identify some of this stuff, then what you should be able to take away from it and add to your plan is those things that you know God is already done in you and is doing, that you already know for a fact you should be activating. Because the architect's mirror, when we start looking at ourselves through the mirror of the image God has created us to be, and we look at it through the image of what his word said we ought to be, and we imagine what I just had you do earlier, closing your eyes and seeing yourself not as some extra character in somebody else's story, but seeing yourself as the living, breathing, original character in your own story that God is writing in your life. Then what you begin to see is that the purpose that he's destined for you and designed for you begins to come directly out of the identity of who you are. And when you understand that and when you know that and you start operating from that place, then you begin to become clear on everything else that you do from that point on. Everything else now begins to take on clarity in such a way to where doubt is no longer something that you wrestle with. The voices of the enemy is nothing that you wrestle with because that's been silenced because it can't speak to you any longer because you're clear. And if you haven't done this, then I want you to do this. I want you to go out and grab your copy of the Kingdom Architect Blueprint from baingram.com/blueprint and start working on it. And I want you to use it this week to stretch your identity blueprint section. It's your first draft toward uncovering your archetype. And I got another resource that you'll be getting this week as we prepare for week 3 to go into understanding your archetype, because all of that is just helping you work out some things in you so that you get clear on your identity. And if you've got questions about that, then email me, write me, text me, let me know, and I can help you with that. So before we close, I want to ask that Is there any questions, especially from those of you who've been working on your blueprint this week? Do you have any questions for me about it? Do you have anything that I can answer? You can put it in the chat or you can put it in the comments, and I'll come back and address that for you as well. And throughout the week, as you're working on it, just let me know, and I will also, like I say, get back with you on it as well. Because I believe that this is so vitally important, especially at this hour, this junction, as I said before, because there's so many people who are out here who are just confused. And they're not confused for the sake of confusion's sake. I believe they're confused because they're choosing to believe something else. They're choosing to operate another way. They're choosing to walk another path and not the path that they've been destined to walk. And so I'm praying for you. I'm praying for your um, the next phase and chapter of your life to be what it is God has destined to be. So if there isn't any questions, or if there is, just put it down in the comments of the chat and I'll come back later and address it. I want to pray and I want to close. And as I said before, if you already signed up for the blueprint, you could be expecting some emails again from me this week as to what you're working on and how that's coming along. But I want to pray for you before we go. Father, I want to thank you for this lesson tonight. I want to thank you for those that are here listening. I pray that they have gotten something that they can take away from this, and most importantly, apply. I thank you for making us with intention. I thank you for creating us with a plan and purpose in mind, the grand design in mind. I know many people don't believe in that anymore, but I do believe that there is a grand design. There is a reason for everything that you have created under the sun. And I renounce any comparison and any confusion that we have that may arise, that may come up, and that we receive daily clarity of the design that you put in us, that you would reveal our identity so clearly and so strongly that we can't deny it, that you would show us our wiring, our creative being. Show us our rhythm and our flow and how we to operate best out of that, not according to someone else, not compared to someone else, but how we're best able to do it. Show us what you hid inside deeply of each and every one of us that heaven now has a demand for and is crying out for, that we operate in and that we do, so that we can begin building on earth what it is you said we should build and establish for your glory. I pray this in Yeshua's name. Listen, your assignment this week, as I said, is to continue working on your blueprint, week 3 through 4. Begin working on that. If you complete week 1 and you're working on week 2, so you be in week 2 at least. At least you should be in week 2 by now, and then looking forward to week 3. But this week assignment is to write your pre-series identification declaration, and I'll have that down in the comments of the video. But that declaration is, I believe I was born to build blank. Some of you already put that in the comments, and I responded to you, and I appreciate that. You told me what you believe that you're born to build, and I've asked you some follow-up questions. But by this point throughout the teachings, especially considering the last 2 series that we've done and now into this one, you should have some faint idea, if not full picture, of what you believe you were born to build, what you believe you were born to do. And hopefully now that you have a little more clarity about getting in touch with your identity, that becomes more clear. And then as you meditate this week on Ephesians 2:10, each and every day, reminding yourself that you're not random, that you are here by design. You are God's workmanship. You are his product. You are his special craftsman. You are the apple of his eye. As you work on that and you solidify that in your thinking throughout this week in preparation for us coming back again, I want to hear from you how that's changing how you do what you do, how that's changing how you get up every day, how that's changing how you operate in this arena of the world. Because I want you to get ready for the next week. Next week, week 3, we're really going to start going into deep territory. We're going to look at the first of the 6 archetypes that I put together and how you were wired to build, how you were wired to create and design. We're going to uncover how heaven's design shows up uniquely in you and how your archetype reveals your building strategy. Because once you understand that, then you understand how you're to build. then you understand the strategy God has given you, and you're not trying to compare it to anybody else or do it the way anybody else is doing it. And for me, for years, it's always been unique in that I haven't attempted to be different for the sake of being different. I had to just do what I've been created to do, how I've been created to do, and it's always been different than anybody else. And I wasn't always cool with that. I wasn't always comfortable with that because it didn't look like what everybody else is doing. Didn't didn't sound like what everybody else was saying. Wasn't going the way everybody else was going. But now years and years and years past, I can see why God had me going down the path I was going, doing the things that I was doing, because now the fruit of it is manifesting in the lives of people. People are tapping into things that spoken 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And they said, man, I needed that for today. That is so applicable for right now. That is helping me where I am right now. And if I had stopped and did it another way, if I had stopped and did it according to somebody else, then people wouldn't be getting the help now that they're getting because it wouldn't have been there to get. Are you understanding that? Because if you don't do what God has given you to do now, then when it's needed for who it's needed for, then it won't be there. It won't be there when people need it. So say with me before we close here again today, we are kingdom architects. We are builders of what God has designed and what can't be broken again. We're not building things that the enemy can break, that people can break. We are establishing things that God will sustain because he's ordained them. And if you're ready to go deeper, this isn't just another series for you. This is your building blueprint. This is an opportunity to come be a part of the building community of Kingdom Builders. And I want you to share this message out with everybody that you come in contact with. I want you to stay connected, subscribe, turn on your notifications when I'm on so that you know when I'm on. Download your blueprint, complete your assignments, go to work, and prepare to be challenged each week, prepare to be changed, prepare to be commissioned. All right? Listen, I hope that this has helped you tonight and helped you to continue moving forward. If you got any questions or comments, look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, I pray the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, be gracious unto you, and grant unto you his peace. Pray that he continually walk with you every day of your life as you walk with him. And may he watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another till he bring us back to this appointed time and appointed place. Until then, take care. God bless. Peace and blessing. Let's build what will stand. Shalom and Baruka. And bye for now.